Welcome. I'm Dawn Klatzko, and it's both my pleasure and honor to have been invited to deliver this lecture. My goal is to help you not only hone your presentation skills, but to hopefully get you excited about the possibilities that this essential tool can open up for you. If you are one of the very many people that have an absolute dread of presenting, then you are of particular interest to me. Because quite frankly, with a few simple hacks, you should be able to leap over this obstacle quite quickly. Honestly, as with so many other challenges that we face in life, it is only the first time that's the hardest. And by the end of the exercise, my aim is that you will have put together your very best presentation yet. As I will demonstrate, one of the tricks is to use mixed media. So to demonstrate my point, allow me to introduce you to my dogs, Harry and Larry, who would now like to share their dance of joy when I installed a new patch of Instalawn for them. This is how I would like you to feel when we have completed your groundwork. I mean joy, not that you want to bury yourself. Cute. So let's begin by framing why developing your presentation skills is essential for success. Regardless of whether you are a politician, activist, marketer, CEO, pitching yourself on a dating site, or applying for a job, the common denominator is that you will be presenting an idea, facts, or a motivation in one form or another. In days gone by, it may have been okay to be a talking head, but technology has changed the game completely. With a few clicks, drags, and edits, we can now create an experience that leaves the viewer or your audience with a lasting, memorable impression that helps your message stand out above the rest. How do I know? Well, I have experienced this power of presentations through two careers. My first was as a successful ad woman, where I built up my own ad agency and film production company. I was a suit rather than a creative, and believe me when I say that there were zero successes that did not involve a presentation as part of our pitch. Our presentations were at the tail end of hundreds of hours of strategy and creative work and required the input of a whole team of people. And of course, we had to rehearse. This often meant that we had to pull an all-nighter. At the end of many all-nighters, producing the work that we were going to be presenting. I guess you could say that I was the ringmaster that did the ta-da bit ahead of the entertainment. Most of the lessons I have to share draw on the 10,000 hours of sometimes terrifying learning and with volumes of war stories. Fortunately, I can now laugh about most of them, even though some were quite disastrous. But that is how we learn, right? Aside from the practical experience, I have two gems that I carry along with me from that first career. One is my personal brand, The Art of the Suit, which is also the title of my Business Insights book. And the other is my muse, Woody, who is the star of many of the presentations that I use in the work that I do in my second career as a business and executive coach. He, she, it is the mnemonic that creates visual interest and helps me simplify complex concepts for my audiences. Aside from my own experiences and suggestions that I will share, I have compiled a supporting reference sheet with links to talks and useful guidelines and resources that I use or I feel are worth you using your very valuable time to watch or read through from various experts in the field. For the purposes of this lecture, I'm going to use PowerPoint as the primary platform. I personally use Keynote more often, but that is because I work on a Mac. I will, however, include mention of other brilliant tools such as Canva, because A, it's free, and B, they offer some really cool presentation options. The lecture is divided into 3 components. Firstly, golden rules for an excellent presentation. Then I cover the power of storytelling. And finally, because this is a practical lecture, a brief on preparing a short presentation about yourself ahead of the live online lecture on the 14th of February, when we get to share some love. So first of all, 6 golden rules for an excellent presentation. There are so many golden rules out there. It's like a treasure chest. So I'm going to limit it to what I believe consistently works well. Rule number 1, use the 10-20-30 rule. If it's feasible, use the 10-slide, 20-minute, 30-point size rule, only if it's possible. If you're presenting a new brand positioning strategy and it was a 3-part presentation between strat, creative, and media, I guarantee it would not be 10 minutes or 20 slides. But the target would be good. Less is definitely more when you want to hold your audience's attention. Rule number 2. When structuring your presentation and talk, remember the 3-point rule. The primary takeaway and recall that you can expect would be 3 points. So tell people what you are going to tell them. They tell them, then tell them what you told them. Choose the 3 key points that you want them to take away and ensure that you focus these 3 messages, both in terms of the words and visuals. Number 3, in the Western world, we are schooled to read from left to right. So put your minimal wording on the left and your pictures on the right. And if you're going to use wipe reveals, wipe from left to right. Simply just think of how you read or consume media. So with social media, how social media influences swiping up or swiping left would also not jar with the average person's eye. Just think of how you consume it. Number 4, put your personal preferences aside and carefully consider and understand your target audience. Who are you pitching to? Are they conservative? What age group? Would they enjoy radical strobing effects, or is this likely to bring on a seizure? What is their style of language preference? I have witnessed the most brilliant pitch being brought to its knees because the creative director decided it was really cool to use the shock tactic of foul language without considering that the CEO was a highly religious and conservative man. If the CD hadn't been a partner in the agency, I would have fired him after washing out his foul mouth with Lifebuoy like my mommy used to. Rule number 5. While talking about words, never say one thing and show another. Both the words and the visuals on the slide must correspond to what you are saying in the sequence that you're saying it. We'll talk about the brain a bit more, but the neuroscientific principle is this. Until the brain understands what's going on, it won't allow the owner to listen properly. So by ensuring that what it sees and hears coordinates, the sooner it will enjoy the experience and absorb what you are saying. It is simply the beauty of neuroscience at play. The same principle applies to if you are showing a table or graph. It's okay to show graphs, but if you're expecting people to be able to read the figures, ensure that you zoom in to be able to show the numbers close up. Remember, 30-point type size. And finally, number 6. The final golden rule is to keep your presentation visually interesting without overwhelming your audience with techniques and visual noise. All of the platforms offer a great range of visual applications, but we can get carried away and they can detract from the core message. If you've got nothing of value to say, then by all means use techniques and visual interest to dazzle your audience, but rather err on the side of clean simplicity once again. Remember that their brains are going to follow the butterflies and wonder what they are doing before coming back to focus on what you are saying. So now that we have the foundations for a basic presentation design in hand, let's talk about the style of presentation, how you would grab attention. And this is where the power of storytelling comes into play. I've included a few links about the power of storytelling, but let me emphasize a few aspects. Once again, we are drawing on the sciences. When you tell a story, your audience does a lot more than simply listen. The brain cannot help but create a visual picture in the mind of the listener. They talk about the theater of the mind, and that is precisely what you are doing, creating a stage production. A strong story also creates a connection between heart and mind, and by doing so, you double your chances of your pitch landing well. You might be thinking, but hey, this is about marketing and business presentations, not a soapy. So I'll throw out a few rough examples to help illustrate my point. But think of the story as a hook to go fishing. You want to bait the audience. You want to grab their attention. And from a neuroscience perspective, you want to tune their brains onto the wavelength of your pitch. To do this, you can use humor. Laughter is a highly effective brainwave tuning technique. Or empathy, showing that you understand how they feel or share how you feel. So imagine that I was pitching a campaign to a marketer, and my opening gambit was something along the lines of, the battle for shelf space is only exceeded by the battle for the consumer's share of heart and mind in the overtraded toiletries market in South Africa today. What have we done? We've used a storytelling style and demonstrated an understanding of a high pressure point for the marketing audience. They can immediately visualize that dreaded shelf planogram and feel that you empathize with the pain they are feeling. Their interest should be piqued in the hope that what will follow will be a solution to the problem they face. Okay, maybe I'm overshooting the expectations a bit, but I hope you get my drift. What about if I was submitting a presentation as part of a job application as a brand manager for a pet food brand? And instead of the usual mugshot, I included this photograph, which, by the way, is me at a slightly younger age. And my opening line was something like this: the fact that I sacrificed myself fearlessly as my beloved dog Zorro's chewy toy was evidence at a very early age of my love affair with animals. I really do love animals, and I've worked on pet food brands, and no, I didn't use this photo in the pet food pitch. But I'm using it to encourage you to dig around in the creative side of that beautiful brain of yours and think of the type of storytelling that you can draw on to add intrigue, draw attention, and hook your audience into your talk. So now let's talk about your challenge, a short presentation about you. Using these simple guidelines, please would you put together a simple 5 to 10 slide presentation about yourself. Create a theme, something like 3 interesting facts about me, or why you want me to be part of your project team. Introducing the brand manager of the future. 5 ways I can make you laugh. If you would like to submit this to me for input ahead of our lecture on the 14th, please do. It'll give me the opportunity of providing constructive input, but more importantly, it'll help you identify the areas that you find are frustrating you and where you need help ahead of the session, so that I can bring answers to the table. Please send me advanced questions to dawn@theartofthesuit.com. And if you would like me to evaluate your personal brand presentation, please zip it and either try emailing it to dawn@theartofthesuit.com or send it via the free WeTransfer FTP facility. As I said at the outset, there are volumes of information available. But rather than have you drown in information, I hope that these guidelines have served to energize and excite you enough to get you started. We have 6 key guidelines: a taste of the power of storytelling, and a brief on your first shot at a presentation. So now I've told you what I was going to tell you. I told you. And I've told you what I told you. So it's over to you. Thank you for listening. I look forward to engaging with you on the 14th.